So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to create this sort of a repeating group that has some items in it and then it has an option to add a new item. This is surprisingly difficult in Bubble because repeating groups can only hold objects, and if there is no object that exists, then it's not really able to show anything. It's not really a problem if you have a vertical repeating group with no columns, because you can just stick this option right below the repeating group. But if you want to have this sort of tile layout, then it becomes a lot more difficult. So how do we do it? The basic idea is that instead of showing the objects themselves in the repeating group, you want to show something else, something that's going to have one more item than the number of objects that exist. In this case, what I decided to show is I decided to show numbers. To generate the numbers, I'm using the list of numbers element, which is part of the Toolbox plugin. The Toolbox plugin is incredibly useful. It has a bunch of cool stuff in it, and one of those things is the list of numbers plugin. So what does it do? It generates a list of numbers that has a certain length and a certain increment. In this case, the objects that we're showing are the accounts, the email accounts, and their source is current user's email account. So a user has a certain number of email accounts, and in the repeating group we want to show the email accounts that they have. And so the numbers are going to start at 1, they're going to increment by 1, and they're going to go to the number of email accounts that the user has plus 1. So if the user has 2 email accounts, the total number of numbers is going to be 3. So the list will be 1, 2, and 3. So then what we do is we make the source, the type of content for the repeating group, be a number instead of an email account, and the source would be the list of numbers that we generated. So that way this repeating group is going to have 3 entries in it, 3 cells, 1, 2, and 3. And then in each cell, conditionally, there's going to be one of 2 things that shows up. Either the content of the information about the email account, which will show up only in certain cases, only in cases where the number that's displayed in the cell is smaller or equal to the number of email accounts that exist. And in those cases, the email account is displayed is going to be one of the email accounts. So in this case, it's going to be email account number, whatever the number is in the cell, or it's going to be this this group that allows you to add a new email, and that's going to be shown if the number that's displayed in the let's get to that expression real quick. That's going to be shown if the number that's displayed in the cell is greater than the total number of email accounts that a user has. So that achieves this nice effect of always having this add a new email option be at the end of the repeating group. You can also reverse it and have this always be the first cell using a very, very similar technique. A different way of doing this would be to create a fake object, to create an empty email account object that gets displayed, but it's a lot messier because it's going to clutter your database and result in unnecessary objects. So just to summarize, display numbers in the repeating group instead of displaying the objects themselves. Have a source that generates those numbers, in this case the list expression, and then conditionally display one of 2 different groups. One that displays information about the email account, and one that displays the option to add a new email account.